The whole building. They couldn't keep him there.
Really?
They couldn't keep him in the building. They moved him to Jersey. He's fighting everybody.
What the?
Yes, yes.
Just before rapper K Flock's trial, an inmate who has recently been freed under the YouTube name of Car Reality has alleged that K Flock almost killed an inmate in the prison after that inmate tried to stab him.
The story of DOA's rise and downfall stands as one of the most dramatic arcs the Bronx drill scene has ever witnessed. A movement built on explosive energy, unique flows, fierce loyalty, and raw street storytelling that captivated millions across New York and beyond. When DOA first entered the scene, they embodied a new era of Bronx drill, a sound sharper and faster than anything coming out at the time. Their music was loud, chaotic, confident, and electrifying. Fans flocked to it instantly. K Flock became the breakout star, his voice buzzing over beats that matched the pace of the Bronx itself, urgent, relentless, and unpredictable. Dougie B brought his own distinctive style, and together they created an energy that felt unstoppable. It was more than music. It was a cultural shift. But the same intensity that fueled DOA's rise also set the stage for its unraveling. As the attention grew, so did the pressure, the expectations, and the consequences of being thrust into the national spotlight while still deeply connected to environments that carry real-world risks. Drill is entertainment, but its roots are tied to neighborhoods dealing with real conflict, real hardship, and real consequences. For DOA, the combination of fame, street reputation, and rising influence created a fragile foundation, one that would eventually be shaken by legal issues, internal tensions, and viral narratives that spread faster than the music itself. The turning point came when K Flock's case hit headlines. The incident, widely covered by news outlets, instantly sent shockwaves through the industry. One moment, he was on the verge of mainstream stardom, gaining cosigns, charting records, and drawing millions of streams. The next moment, he was facing serious charges and becoming the centerpiece of one of the most heavily publicized legal battles in recent drill history. Fans flooded social platforms with support, disbelief, and hope for his eventual return. But the case placed a heavy weight on DOA as a collective. The leader of the movement, the face of the brand, was suddenly removed from the picture. While the legal process unfolded, with attorneys, prosecutors, testimonies, and court updates dominating the narrative, DOA was left in a complicated position. The spotlight that once amplified their music now amplified every mistake, every rumor, every misstep. Commentary channels began dissecting the crew's every move. Media outlets speculated on what the future could look like. The excitement that once surrounded their rise became overshadowed by the uncertainty surrounding K Flock's situation. This moment marked the beginning of DOA's downfall, not because they lacked talent or momentum, but because the legal storm surrounding their biggest star shifted the entire structure of the crew. The Bronx drill scene moved forward at full speed, new artists emerged, and the industry adapted. But for DOA, the weight of the case created a ripple effect that would eventually test the loyalty, unity, and resilience of every member connected to the movement. As K Flock's case continued to develop, with new documents, court motions, and updates appearing in public records, the narrative surrounding DOA grew increasingly complicated. Fans watched closely as the legal process gathered statements, analyzed surveillance footage, brought witnesses forward, and prepared for a courtroom battle that could determine Flock's entire future. The case became one of the most discussed topics in the drill community, not because of sensational rumors, but because of the high stakes. K Flock represented potential, success, and a possible bridge between drill authenticity and mainstream success. Losing him, even temporarily, reshaped the entire direction of the Bronx drill scene. At the same time, the rest of DOA struggled under the pressure of newfound attention that wasn't tied to music. Instead of headlines about freestyles, growth, tours, or industry deals, the group found themselves connected to discussions about legal risks, public investigations, and internal challenges. Social media amplified everything, often blurring the line between fact and speculation. Fans debated whether the crew would survive long-term. Commentary channels discussed whether DOA's momentum could continue without its biggest star. And rival fan bases magnified every misstep, turning the online space into a battleground. As if that wasn't enough, the word RICO began circulating, not as confirmed action, but as online speculation fueled by public scrutiny of drill culture. Whenever law enforcement pays attention to a music scene, fans and bloggers tend to fill in the blanks with theories. Suddenly, every connection, every lyric, every old video became part of larger discussion, about whether DOA could face the same fate as other rap collectives who encountered legal pressure in the past. Even though nothing had been formally filed against them as a group, the internet treated the idea like reality. That made it harder for DOA members to move freely within the industry. Under this pressure, the crew began showing cracks. Dougie B, once seen as one of the most promising members outside of Flock, found himself caught in viral moments that clouded his trajectory. Some incidents were blown out of proportion online, others became memes, and a few turned into full-blown controversies that overshadowed his music. His talent was undeniable. Fans loved his cadence, his energy, and his unpredictability. But unpredictability in the drill world comes with consequences. Every small mistake turns into a headline. Every misunderstanding becomes a storyline. Meanwhile, Nas EBK, another notable name tied to DOA's circle, began facing his own challenges. He became entangled in public incidents that circulated quickly on social media, making it harder for him to maintain upward momentum. What should have been career-building years turned into phases of setbacks, viral missteps, and commentary from critics claiming DOA's members were losing focus. The combination of K-Flock's legal battle, rising public pressure, and internal instability set the stage for what many now call the DOA downfall. Not because the talent disappeared, but because the outside narrative became louder than the music. The Bronx drill scene didn't slow down during DOA's struggles. In fact, it expanded rapidly. New artists emerged, new flows developed, and new rivalries popped up. As DOA members stumbled under public pressure, competitors gained traction. Names like Shah EK, Didi Osama, Sugar Hill Dot, B Lovey, and Kenzo Bala continued dropping music, building momentum and attracting new fans. The scene evolved into a high-speed environment where missing even a few months could derail an artist's buzz. For DOA, missing years, especially with K-Flock unavailable, created an enormous competitive gap. Flock was the face of the movement, the one with industry backing, the one poised to take Bronx drill mainstream. Without him, the rest of DOA had to carry a weight they weren't fully prepared for. They needed consistency, unity, and strategic planning. Instead, they found themselves dealing with viral controversies, legal issues, internal disagreements, and the kind of instability that makes labels and investors hesitant to commit long-term. Rumors about snitches flipping added another complex layer to DOA's public narrative, not as confirmed fact, but as online speculation drawn from documents, testimony mentions, or leaked statements circulating across blogs. Drill fans often misinterpret legal language, turning minor details into explosive accusations. Once these narratives enter the algorithm, they spread uncontrollably. TikTok creators break them down. YouTube commentators magnify them, Reddit users thread theories together, and before long, the collective reputation suffers, even when the truth is far more nuanced. The perception became that DOA was collapsing from both the inside and the outside. Critics argued that the crew lacked leadership without Flock. Supporters defended the members, saying the industry applied unfair pressure. But regardless of perspective, the result was the same. DOA's brand became chaotic, unpredictable, and harder to manage. Meanwhile, diss tracks did what diss tracks always do. They escalated the narrative. Bronx drill thrives on competition. Once DOA started appearing vulnerable, rival artists sharpened their lyrics, capitalizing on the moment. Some disses were playful, others serious, but all of them contributed to the growing perception that DOA was losing its grip on the scene it once dominated. Fans began questioning whether the crew could ever regroup. Could Dougie B regain his focus? Could Nas EBK rebuild his momentum? Could new DOA members rise fast enough to keep the movement afloat, or would K-Flock be the only one capable of bringing the energy back? The problem was that everything became reactive instead of proactive. The crew wasn't leading the conversation, it was responding to it. The downfall wasn't a single event. It was a slow leak of momentum, attention, and consistency spread out over years of instability while the rest of the Bronx drill scene evolved. One of the most overlooked elements in DOA's downfall is how quickly the Bronx drill industry became professionalized. When drill first hit New York, it was raw, unfiltered, and DIY. But within 2 years, labels started investing millions, artists started securing major features, and managers began pushing for clean-cut marketing strategies. The industry expected consistency, discipline, and reliability. 3 things DOA struggled to maintain as their internal issues piled up. K-Flock's rapid rise before his arrest gave DOA enormous industry leverage. The biggest rappers knew him, executive teams eyed him, touring companies were preparing routes. When he dropped, everything shifted. The industry prefers stability, and without Flock anchoring the brand, DOA didn't have the infrastructure to compensate. Young artists who should have been developing quietly under his umbrella suddenly had to carry an entire movement. That pressure showed. Dougie B's situation became a symbol of that pressure. His highs were extremely high. Viral freestyles, massive shows, undeniable star power. But his lows were equally visible. Social media magnifies everything, and Dougie's unpredictability made it hard to build stable momentum. Fans loved him, but industry professionals hesitated. The uncertainty surrounding DOA as a whole didn't help either. What should have been a career built on consistency became one built on moments, flashes of brilliance overshadowed by offstage chaos. Nas EBK faced a similar cycle, talented, charismatic, and capable of capturing attention fast, but thrown into viral incidents that overshadowed the music. In an industry that thrives on perception, even minor controversies become obstacles, and DOA, as a collective, couldn't contain or manage these moments effectively. Meanwhile, the Bronx drill rivals continued evolving. Their visuals improved, their production quality soared, their marketing teams grew, their collaborations expanded. The scene became more polished, strategic, and competitive. DOA, once the trendsetters, now looked like they were struggling to keep up with the pace they helped create. And then came the public narratives about the end of DOA. Commentary channels pushed dramatic titles. Fan pages emphasized every setback. Diss tracks claimed the crown had been taken. All of this created a narrative snowball effect, one that painted DOA as a fallen empire even before the members themselves acknowledged any decline. But that's the thing about media-driven downfalls. Once the perception sticks, it becomes difficult to undo. The story of DOA became more about what they lost than what they built. Their legacy became overshadowed by their setbacks. However, one truth remains: a crew's downfall does not erase their impact. DOA fundamentally shifted Bronx drill. Their influence lives in the flows, cadences, ad-libs, energy, and culture of nearly every new artist emerging today. The downfall is real, but the legacy is undeniable. As the downfall narrative reached its peak, the drill community began asking the biggest question: can DOA ever make a comeback? And the answer is more complicated than a simple yes or no. It depends heavily on K-Flock's legal outcome, on whether the crew can rebuild its internal structure, and on whether individual members can stabilize long enough to release consistent music. K-Flock remains the centerpiece of DOA's identity. His voice, delivery, and charisma elevated the entire movement. His case, widely reported on and analyzed through official court documents, remains unresolved in the public eye, and fans watch every update closely. If he returns home, DOA instantly gains a second life. The industry would immediately pay attention, and major labels would likely attempt to reintroduce him with enormous promotional push. But until that happens, his absence leaves a gap that the rest of the crew hasn't been able to fill. Dougie B remains the closest thing to a spark within DOA's current lineup. His energy is unmatched, and when focused, he delivers music that resonates deep within both the Bronx and the broader drill fanbase. But he needs stability, the kind that allows for long-term planning, strategic releases, and consistent branding. Without that, he risks being remembered as a legend of potential rather than execution. Nas EBK's situation is similar, moments of brilliance overshadowed by complications. If he can refocus and rebuild slowly, he could become one of DOA's strongest assets. His style is unique, his voice recognizable, and his storytelling compelling. But the industry demands discipline. New DOA members, younger voices, and behind-the-scenes connections could also play a role in rebuilding the movement. The Bronx drill scene is filled with young talent looking for leadership. DOA could provide that if they restructure properly. But even beyond personnel changes, the challenge is cultural. The scene has shifted. The sound has evolved. The industry has become more corporate. Dozens of artists now occupy the lane DOA once controlled exclusively. In order to make a comeback, DOA needs new strategies, new ideas, and a fresh approach to drill that acknowledges the past while adapting to the future. Still, drill fans love a comeback story. Brooklyn saw Bobby return. Chicago saw multiple artists rebuild, and New York has always embraced redemption arcs. If K-Flock returns, if Dougie B locks in, and if the crew adopts a unified direction, DOA could shock the industry again. Their downfall was dramatic assault, but a comeback could be even bigger. In the end, the story of DOA's downfall isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a reflection of how fragile success can be in a genre built on raw talent, intense environments, and unpredictable fame. The Bronx drill scene moves fast, demands consistency, and shines a spotlight on young artists who are still navigating the complexities of adulthood, loyalty, identity, and survival. DOA experienced the highest highs and the lowest lows in a short span of time, and the world watched every moment unfold in real time. Their rise was undeniable, a movement that reshaped the entire soundscape of New York drill. Their records charted, their energy spread worldwide, and their influence continues to echo through the boroughs today. But their downfall was a storm of legal setbacks, viral controversies, internal instability, and an industry that moved forward without waiting for anyone to catch up. It wasn't a single event. It was a chain reaction, each piece amplifying the next until the entire structure cracked. But in drill, a genre born from pressure, downfall doesn't always mean death. It often means transition, transformation, rebuilding. And that's where DOA stands today, at a crossroads between legacy and potential comeback. The story is not over. The book isn't closed. The next chapter depends on what happens legally, musically, and culturally. If K-Flock returns, the energy of the entire Bronx could shift overnight. If Dougie B finds stability, he could reclaim his spot instantly. If Nas EBK recenters, he could rise again. And if the crew finds unity in the middle of chaos, they could restore what the internet believes is already lost. The Bronx loves pressure. The Bronx loves grit. The Bronx loves fighters who get back up. And DOA, despite everything, still carries the kind of raw potential that could shock the world again if given the right circumstances. For now, fans watch and wait, the way the drill community always does, hoping for new music, new stability, and maybe even a miracle that brings the movement back to where it once stood. Until then, DOA remains a symbol of both the greatness and the dangers of drill culture, a reminder that the spotlight can build empires, but it can also burn them down just as fast. If you enjoyed this deep dive breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more stories, updates, and analysis on the culture.